Thanks again for tuning into Moonshine Gaming. Today we're going to be discussing the top 5 rarest and most expensive Sony PlayStation 3 games. Now, as per usual, we have a few parameters we're going to be following for this list. We won't be including any big box collector's editions, and we won't be including any of the Southeast Asian, English, and Chinese games. So what I mean by that is games like The Last Guy, Aquanauts Holiday, and Rain. Now we're going to be using North American complete in-box pricing for the prices on this list. So what that means is that the game case, instruction manual, and game disc are going to be included for all the prices listed. So without further ado, let's get into it. First up, we've got Africa. This is a photography and safari simulation game that was released in 2009. The game's basically an HD version of Pokemon Snap, but with real animals. In the game, you assume the role of a photojournalist, and you're hired to take photos of different animals in Africa, hence the game name. Gameplay is mission driven, and players receive emails at the base camp instructing them which animals they have to take photos of. Players may then travel by foot, car, or hot air balloon to the areas where the requested animals are found in order to take photos of them. Depending on the quality of the photos taken, the players will earn a certain amount of in-game money. The money can then be spent on new supplies such as upgraded camera or camera gear. The soundtrack of the game is great, and the sweeping orchestral scores won the game an award at the Hollywood Music Awards. This game definitely isn't for everyone. It requires a ton of patience and feels more like a photography simulator more than anything. The depth you can go in with setting up your camera equipment is actually pretty surprising. I personally really enjoyed the game, and it felt like a much more relaxed and in-depth version of Pokemon Snap. The current market value of this game is $180. Next up, we've got JoJo's Bizarre Adventure All-Star Battle. This is a 3D fighting game that was released in 2014. In the game, the players can fight against each other using characters taken from all 8 story arcs from the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure manga series. The game has a 2D fighting style with 3D cel-shaded characters. Like most fighting games, the aim is to defeat your opponent by draining their stamina gauge with various attacks and special techniques. Along with the ability to use your various special attacks and techniques with different directional inputs, each character possesses a battle style, allowing them to utilize additional moves with the style button. There's a ton of other intricate gameplay mechanics that I won't get into, but let's just say there's a lot to learn in this game. The amount of depth put into the character creation is incredible. Each character has an elaborate backstory that stays true to the manga, and the designated moveset for each character is awesome as well. The only downside is that the controls can feel a bit stiff and sluggish while fighting. If you happen to be a fan of the JoJo series, the level of detail that's gone into each cel-shaded character model and attack animation will almost certainly get your nostalgia senses tingling. But if you approach All-Star Battle as a fighting game first and foremost, you'll discover a satisfyingly complex combat system with a few lackluster game modes. It's not a perfect game, but it's really fun once you get used to the mechanics. The current market value of this game is $228. Now a quick word from the sponsor of this video. No, I'm just kidding. Nobody's sponsoring this tiny channel. But if you guys enjoy videos like this, we put out video game related content every single Thursday, and you can consider subscribing to Moonshine Gaming to stay up to date with future videos. Back to the list. Next up, we've got Syberia Collection. This is a graphic adventure / puzzle game that was released in 2015. The compilation pack includes Syberia 1 and 2. The first game follows Kate Walker as she arrives in a strange small French village. She's a lawyer meant to buy a toy factory from a woman named Anna, and unfortunately when you arrive, Anna is actually dead. You'll work with Kate in order to find out who can actually sell you the factory, and through that path leads you on a string of adventures around several European locations. In Syberia 2, you take control of Kate again, alongside Old Man Hans, and you set off on a journey together in search of the last of the fabled Siberian mammoths. The gameplay is pretty standard. You'll wander around large areas collecting items and using them to solve puzzles. The challenges are unique, and your investigative problem-solving skills will definitely be put to the test in smart and polished ways. These games were originally released on PC, and they were point-and-click adventures, similar to Myst. The port to console was okay, but it just doesn't feel the same using a controller instead of a mouse. Playing the game with a controller has turned a lot of the gameplay into a pretty frustrating experience. In my opinion, playing the originals on PC are a much better way to experience this double feature. The current market value of this game is $329. Next up, we've got Painkiller: Hell and Damnation. This is a horror slash first person shooter game that was released in 2013. The game is both a remake and a sequel to the original Painkiller game, which tells a tweaked story that's only loosely based on both the original game and the Battle Out of Hell expansion. In the game, you have to get through each level from start to finish by slaughtering a bunch of demons. The game's divided into several chapters, each with several levels. Anyone who's played the previous Painkiller games will notice how much prettier the Unreal Engine 3 makes everything appear in this version. Although the levels haven't been fully revamped, the fresh layers and crisp details really pop on screen. It's wonderful to see old haunts like the Cathedral, Looney Park, and the Orphanage spruced up with a fresh coat of paint. The huge boss fights also serve as epic end pieces to each chapter. The levels can sometimes feel a bit large for the amount of enemies you're fighting, and although there are some interesting enemy and weapon designs, the lack of iron sights when using a weapon is a definite downside. The game also includes a co-op mode, but unfortunately this makes the campaign insanely easy, even on the higher difficulties. Sadly, the other online multiplayer modes were laggy and buggy at the time of release and were never improved. This installment looks and plays great for what it is, yet it suffers too much from recycled content and a very limited scope. It's still a refreshing taste of that old school shooter charm, drenched in gore. The current market value of this game is $381. Next up, number 1, NBA Elite 11. This is a basketball simulation game that was very briefly released in 2010. On the evening of September 20th, 2010, a demo build of NBA Elite 11 for PS3 was made available for PlayStation Network users. In the demo, players were able to compete in a re-edition of the final quarter of Game 7 of the 2010 NBA Finals, choosing between the Lakers and the Celtics. Also featured in the demo was an introduction to the new Become Legendary mode. The demo, however, was met with mostly negative reactions. Common criticisms included difficult and unresponsive controls, subpar AI, unrealistic graphics, and numerous glitches, and this resulted in a large number of gamers threatening to instead acquire 2K Sports offer NBA 2K11. On September 27th of 2010, NBA Elite was delayed indefinitely following an announcement by EA Sports president Peter Moore. Although the game was eventually cancelled, copies containing a build slightly more polished than what was used for the public demos were pressed and sent in advance to retailers, with at least one of them opting to, instead of returning the disc to EA for destruction, selling them online. This resulted in physical copies of NBA Elite 11 to skyrocket in price. The number of physical copies of NBA Elite 11 is currently unknown, but it's safe to say that there aren't too many out there. Also, I'm just gonna note that the value of this game is probably much higher than the price I'm about to give, but with such limited sales, it's almost impossible to put an exact number on the current market value. With that being said, current market value of this game is $1,123.
Garnett, this could tie it, and that'll do it. They are NBA champions. It's all over. Jeff?
And that's going to do it for the video. If you have any suggestions for future top 5s or top 10s, you can let us know down in the comments below. We'll see you next time.